Welcome to Only Reddit Updates. Have you ever been disappointed by an intriguing post with no updates or resolution? Well, you're in luck. I'm only posting stories that have those oh-so-satisfying updates. I've been a fan of listening to these Redditors, and stories with updates and conclusions are A. Chef's Kiss. I'm new to the space, so video uploads will hopefully have the schedule of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. As the channel grows, and if there is a demand for it, I would love to give more updates. Hope you're ready, because here's part 1.
My 27-year-old boyfriend, who is 28, wants to move in together when our leases are up, but he says I can't keep my altar. Trigger warning, controlling behavior. Original post is from November 16th, 2015. I keep an altar. It's about the size of a bedside table with a drawer. There's usually a couple of glass candles on it, some bowls and cups, and imagery of specific saints that I work with. Tommy and I have been dating for a year, and our leases will end around the 1.5-year mark. He says he wants us to move into a place together. I was really into this idea. It sounds great to me. Then, a few nights ago, Tommy was at my place, and he asked what I'd do when we moved in together. He pointed at my altar and said, "Tommy, will you just get rid of it?" I said, "Of course not. I'll be taking it with me." And then he said that I couldn't bring the altar, that since he's an atheist, he doesn't want stuff like that in his home. I told him that we don't have to have it in the living room, that I can move it elsewhere, but the living room is just where I naturally put it. He said no, he doesn't want any religious stuff in his home. And then he said that I would be disrespecting his beliefs, and when I told him I wouldn't be okay with living without the altar, he made it seem like I was putting religion ahead of him, like I was choosing religion over him, which I'm not. But I don't think I should have to give up one of the only religious things I even do. Is this just a sign of long-term incompatibility? I've lived with an atheist before and didn't have any issues, so I know it's not something all atheists are like. TLDR, atheist boyfriend says I cannot take my altar when we move in together. What should I do?
You're not respecting his beliefs, but he's not respecting yours. That's what I asked. Why he was calling it his home. He didn't have an answer. He keeps calling it his home. When is it going to be ours and not his? M172 says, "Yeah, this is definitely bigger than the altar, especially if you two want to get married and have kids at some point. If you haven't had those discussions, then you need to before you get any further with the moving in plans. But be clear with Tommy that you're not asking him to acknowledge the altar as religious or anything to do with him at all. So if he can't live and let live, he's the one putting his lack of beliefs ahead of you, and this probably isn't going to work out." Tidligari says this needs to be higher up. Make a list of where, when, and how religion is important or influential in your life, like holidays, future children, Sundays, special diet, anything. Go over this list with him. What is his take on it? What does he want and expect? Then find out if the two of you are at all compatible as partners in life. Also, what kind of atheist is he? To him, it should be just candles and pictures, since he does not believe that there are gods and saints. Why is it threatening to him? Signed, an atheist. Part 2, our first update.
I received so much feedback from my last post that I had to thank you all first off for reading and listening. I want to clarify a number of things before I continue. Dating an atheist as someone who keeps an altar has never been an issue before. I am not seriously religious, and my beliefs have never stood in the way of anything. There are no rules I follow. It doesn't change my socio-political alignment, etc. It's a dedicated place for me to pay respects to my ancestors and to the saints I work with. It's no different than you setting up a dedicated room for video games. I think Reddit should open up to learning about religion, beyond direct examples of Christianity or the other big ones. I saw a lot of ignorant comments that clearly don't comprehend why people keep altars. And believe me when I say that there are many of us. And no, we are not mentally ill. That's just silly. On to the update. I used a lot of the conversations from my post to determine how I would talk with him about it. But it turned out he read my post. And he read the comments himself. And, even better, He was able to come to me with his concerns and communicate to me what he was worried about and how he felt. We ended up talking for a long time about the issue, and it boiled down to him being a little afraid and not understanding my practice. He said he has always been a little uncomfortable about it because he's been trained to see this stuff as weird and creepy and things like that. He asked me to explain it more and to give him some time to read up on what I was doing so he could familiarize himself with it. He took a few days, but in the end, when he came back to me to talk about it, he told me that he was no longer worried and that he was sorry that he had made it into such a big deal. He even asked if it would be okay for him to light a tea light now and then, because he likes the idea of candles as offerings or recognition of the deceased. He bought a stack of books to read up on regarding this stuff, and he is reading a little bit each night. He is very apologetic about how things went down and how he seemed, but I understand that his tone and behavior were absolutely due to him not understanding or knowing about this stuff. Things are going great now, and we are still on track to move in together. The conversation about it not just being his house struck him the most. Thank you for your help, Reddit. TLDRBF read my original post and took it on himself to educate and understand where I'm coming from. He apologized and everything's going great. Me and my alter will be glad to move in.
My take on this entire situation is that it boils down to respect. We should respect each other's boundaries that are set, and we should communicate. To shut down someone's beliefs without a conversation is not what healthy relationships are built on. In the first part of the story, it felt very dismissive and controlling to just say it can't come to my house, especially when you are merging your living space. People have different styles and tastes even when they are dating, and those differences should always be respected. If something is a deal breaker or a hill worth dying on, it definitely should be talked about versus being ordered. Saying my house when you're moving in with someone who is presumably going to be paying for half of the bills at least is a potential red flag. In the second half, I'm glad to see that communication was at the forefront of both partners' minds, as opposed to digging in and potentially making the situation worse. I'm glad the boyfriend was willing to do some research and to reevaluate his actions and his words. Hopefully, this is a sign of actual changed behavior and long-term growth, and not just a short-term band-aid. The boyfriend finding the post reminds me of all of these stories that are posted by throwaway accounts. We can only hope that this isn't a potential manipulation tactic, because he could see from her account of the situation how upset she was. He was also able to see the potential talking points that she may have had by looking through the comments. At the end of the day, just hope that they both are truly happy and satisfied with their future.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad we got to enjoy this ride together. Comment if you have any similar experiences, takes, or stories on this situation. Subscribe if you're interested and looking forward to our next updated story.